the small tasks that we put in, or that I put in these emails that go out every day, are things that I do every day. And I started talking about them with people who I was working with and friends and family. And the biggest thing I kept hearing was, well, I'm just one person. If I turn the lights off when I leave the room, it's not going to make a difference. So I'm not going to do it. And just after hearing that more and more, it was sitting at my desk and it just kind of clicked that we need to be unified in this idea.
Welcome to Uprising. Each episode looks inside what it takes to lead the most dynamic and successful cultural movements. Some of them in the business world, some in the social realm, some in politics, and some in between. To see why people start uprisings, what gives those initiatives momentum and keeps them going, and most important, what lessons can you learn from these movements and how to apply them to your business and even personal life. Let's explore the secret to sparking movements that move people into action.
Passionate ideas.
Controversial ideas.
Uprising ideas.
The power is now in the hands of anyone.
To start a cultural movement.
Your movement. To move the world.
Hello and welcome to Uprising. This is Scott Goodson, and after studying movements for many years, I've realized that there are people out there who believe strongly in making a great impact on the world. Some of those people actually start movements, and for the most part, it comes down to passion. They wake up one morning and they're very passionate about something. Olivia Gossett Cooper is the founder of Today We Will, and when she started this movement, she added something else in addition to passion. She added organizing and simplifying to the list of what she wanted to help people do. And not just organizing people into a movement, but helping them to do it efficiently and removing some of the pain in the neck stuff associated with being a part of a movement. The movement sends emails daily to its followers, inspiring them to do great deeds. And it could also be simple things. And in a simple short paragraph, the email explains why it's a good idea and how you can do it. And the overall goal is to combine errands and inspire people to do these great deeds in a really simple way. So Olivia, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So tell me, how did you get to this point? Tell me, what was Olivia like the day that you came up with your movement, and what did you want to set out to accomplish that day?
It was actually about a year ago. I was at work. I won't say where I was working because you're not supposed to be working on other stuff on the job, but the small tasks that we put in, or that I put in these emails that go out every day, are things that I do every day. And I started talking about them with people who I was working with and friends and family. And the biggest thing I kept hearing was, well, I'm just one person. If I turn the lights off when I leave the room, it's not going to make a difference. So I'm not going to do it. And just after hearing that more and more, it was sitting at my desk and it just kind of clicked that we need to be unified in this idea. And that if there was somehow where you could know that you weren't the only one working on something or doing that small task, then you would realize doing that small task would actually have a big impact. So the idea of today we will, instead of today I will turn off the light, just kind of popped into my head. And I got the URL, and then a year later actually started working on this. At the time, I just didn't have the time. So that's kind of how it sparked.
That's great. And you set out, you built, this messaging system. It's going out, it's sending inspiring messages. Did it just take off? What, from day one to the next, did you find that you had thousands of people just adopting it, or what happened?
Well, for a while, I was asking friends and family for their feedback because it's really the language around getting people to work on sustainability or societal change is you have to be really careful with it. And I want to make sure that because it can seem annoying. It can seem like you're nagging or it can seem negative. And I really want this to be a positive movement for not saying, here's what's wrong, but saying, here's what we can do. And so the language is really important to me. So I'm starting out in this, first 2 months, just keeping it really close to friends and family and to people in the sustainability community, which I'm easily tapped into as I'm getting my MBA in sustainability right now. So doing it through the school there and through other organizations who work around sustainability, I've been getting great feedback from them. And after that, we'll try to target, people outside of that small bubble who really need to get on this movement, who aren't.
I mean, one of the things that I found remarkable about it was how simple and easy to follow instructions come along with your movement. I mean, which I think is a really great thing. I mean, I think, as you said, I think a lot of people try to tackle some of these bigger issues and end up creating this kind of wall of complexity and makes it super simple when you go into your emails. I just really love that. How did you kind of get to a point where you found, well, that's the key?
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out because that is done on purpose. As working as a copywriter for 6 years, just am very familiar with the way people read copy, and information and visuals and everything that they see online. And I am very aware that you have very short attention spans out there, and getting an email every day is a barrier in itself. Not everybody wants to sign up for that. So the only way to make it digestible every day was to make it short and sweet, and bite-sized.
Was there anything about your background that kind of helped you understand that you need to communicate in a simple and inspiring, succinct way?
Absolutely. I mean, working on as a copywriter from everything from developing apps to ad campaigns, I just more and more it was always, make it more succinct, make it more direct. And thanks to analytics on a lot of the digital campaigns and products that I worked on, we know that things that are more direct, simple to follow, and shorter perform the best. So I guess it was more intuitive that I gained that perspective and applied that to the Today We Will newsletter. I tried to keep everything super short and sweet.
You talked about how you have been working with your family to sort of test some of these concepts. Are there any learnings from talking to your family that you were like, oh my God, I really need to make this super simple. Otherwise, they're just not going to get it or they're not going to want to be engaged?
Well, I realized something became a reality that I already knew, which was not people aren't going to do these small tasks that we suggest you do every day. It's just not going to happen. If we get 80% of the people doing it, that's a great thing. But I realized that that's okay. And I kind of knew this going into it anyway, because it's more than getting people to do these small tasks, but it's also getting people to become aware of why these small tasks matter. Talking to some people, they weren't aware how much water not turning off your faucet in between brushing your teeth can waste.
That was a great. That was a great mail, by the way. I thought it was really, I've seen that message a lot, but the way you framed it, I thought was really great.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's education and just being like, oh, that's what that does, or this is why people keep ranting about not using plastic. It's half education and half action is the goal of the newsletter. So that was one big realization, and the other, Scott, you've been getting the newsletters, so you might have noticed a change recently that there are calendar reminders that you can add to do the tasks, because you get these emails once a day in the morning, and if it's not a habit for you to not ask for a lid for your coffee when you go to get it, a little calendar reminder can really help. You may want to do it, but it's just remembering it is half the battle. So I've started adding those too.
So what is your biggest goal? Like if you were to tackle like the biggest thing in your wildest dreams, what would it be?
Well, I think the goal is to get as many people doing this as possible, but that's my personal dream. But the goal of the newsletter is to get people to start thinking about how their behaviors, or how all of our behaviors, how mine, yours, everybody's, no matter how big, no matter how small, does have a global impact, right? Think globally, act locally, and it's really honing in on that idea. So my goal is to have people talk about it. If you learn something new today based on an action that was put out from the newsletter, you become inspired by it and you tell someone else. And then they tell someone else. And it's creating a conversation around the actions that we take is really the goal.
Do you find that the messages are spread? Are you able to track that? Do people actually share it with their friends, or how does it work?
So I'm able to track a few things. One are obviously the clicks on the emails, and sometimes I'll put in links to learn more because I keep the email short and sweet. We put in links to learn more about whatever that task we're doing that day and why we're doing that task. So a lot of people are, I would say about, you have like 20% clicks when those go out. So people are interested and do want to learn more, which is very encouraging. It's nice because the task is actually in the subject line. So it's from Today We Will, and then you have the subject line. So it's Today We Will ask for no lids, which is fun. But even with that, people want to learn more and they'll open it up and want to understand why we're doing what we're doing. And that's, over 50% average rate. So people are interested. And as we're keeping it and slowly rolling it out, I'll want to add on some social channels to go along with it and be able to track social action that way. But one step at a time.
I think the combined errands idea is really wonderful because it sort of walks the talk. The talk is about how do you live a sustainable life or a better life that doesn't make a significant impact on the planet. And you're not making a big significant impact in the number of words that you use, and you're trying to simplify it for people. It's a really nice tie-in with what your ultimate objective is. So,
thanks.
Nice
yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I was speaking with a friend last night, and it bugged me because a couple of weeks ago, well, this is someone who I know for a while, and I know that they are addicted to Amazon shopping, which when you have a Prime account is easy to be. With the click of the button, you can get almost anything, like from a tube of toothpaste to 600 tubes of toothpaste. So when they told me, they were like, well, isn't it more sustainable to shop online? This is someone who lives in the suburban area and would otherwise need to drive to get their essentials. And it bugged me, and I've been thinking about it, and it really comes down to efficiency. Like if there's one takeaway that I want people to take from what we're talking about today and what the goal is of Today We Will newsletter, is efficiency is like the secret, really. The more efficient you can do something, the less waste that you'll put out there. So I was able to figure it out, and I told him yesterday, it's really about combining errands. So when you're on your way back from the train station or going to a football game, that's when you pick up the tube of toothpaste you would have got on Amazon. So it's funny, doing this newsletter is educating me as well. And I love that about it. There's always something new that you can do and new that you can learn.
How much of your Swedish heritage do you think is helping you realize that efficiency is an important part of saving the planet?
Well, there's definitely the efficient design, I suppose. That's part of that heritage. No, and also, I mean, I grew up, my mom is from Sweden, and she grew up taking me on hikes and cross-country skiing and backwoods, and that definitely has had a major impact on how much I value the natural world. And it's just, I'm in awe of it. I think it's amazing. I mean, there's this design thinking, biomimicry, where you look at a design challenge and you actually look to nature to find the answer. And you don't copy it, but you learn from it. So, for example, let's say it's a fabric and you want it to whisk away, whether it be bugs, it could be the problem. Let's just say that. You might look at an animal who whisks away bugs on their skin, and you would learn from that how you could apply that to a material for a bug whisking away a coat or something. So it's just interesting. I mean, after billions of years of trial and error, nature has all the answers. So it's definitely been a big influence.
I think utility in this space, in the social responsibility space, is a new, fresh way of thinking about it. Have you heard that from other people as you've kind of developed Today We Will?
Utility of like biomimicry or using the platforms like a newsletter?
The way that you're organizing the information in the way that it's so simple.
That's been the new trend. I've been studying how people talk about these potentially negative topics. Global warming, for example. And what's winning that communication war is positive talking. The negative explanations of what's happening and we're doomed and all of this and the shaming, and it doesn't, nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to feel guilty about that. And not only that, even if you do, it's paralyzing when you talk about it like that. So really, it needs to be, what can I do as an individual is what people who want to help want to know. What can I do today? And for those who don't know as much, it's learning bit by bit, but not in a way that's demoralizing or upsetting, but in a hopeful way. Just stating the fact there's going to be more bits of plastic in the ocean than sea life in a couple of years. Like, that is a fact. Okay, one thing that we can do is reduce our plastic intake. And it's combining those two things with the problem and a solution is definitely the winning approach.
From a perspective of you as an individual, I mean, you obviously have a lot of balls in the air. What were some of the challenges and the struggles that you had to overcome in order to get this out there? I mean, I know it's not a complex algorithm, and it's not perhaps at this moment the next, Twitter, but there's something really interesting about what you're doing. But how did you get from literally idea to making it happen? What did you have to overcome to get there?
So much. I mean, like I said, I got the URL and didn't put this out until a year later. I quit my job. I quit copywriting and advertising to pursue what I was passionate about. I was clearly passionate about wanting to help the environment. So I applied for school, and I'm now getting my MBA in sustainability. Just finishing up my first semester doing that. And it was during this time that I've been thinking about how I can have a big impact. I want to be as efficient about it as possible. I want to use the skills I already have. We've been in classes talking with some amazing speakers who are part of the environmental movement. They're talking about what they've done, and I'm just turning my wheels and thinking, what can I do? And it's true, I have a lot of balls up in the air, especially being in school now. So I was like, today we will. This is something that I can do while I'm in school. As I'm learning about these sustainability tactics, I can share them with the world. And as I'm doing them and trying them out myself, I can share them with the world. So I realized that was how I could have an impact, given my background in writing and digital platforms. And I just came home one day. I remember telling my husband, I was like, I think that today we will is what I can do for now. That's how I started it. And then I played around with a bunch of different newsletter platforms, ended up with MailChimp for now, and then made, in the process of making a backlog of tasks that we can do throughout the year. One of the questions a lot of people ask me is, do you think that you'll exhaust all the things you can do in 1 year? Well, so far, I've been able to get through about 6 months and haven't had any repeats. So that's good. Because, they're small tasks. So if it's today not using straws, tomorrow it could be, not using a plastic fork. And because there's such small tasks, they're doable, but also I can stretch out ideas over a longer period of time. And then I just sat down and started writing them and found a voice that felt right and a length that felt right. And I sent one out to my husband, who said the design was not acceptable. So I went back to the drawing board and redesigned it to what it is today. And that's how the idea kind of came into the, product, or the entity it is today.
What did your husband say that was wrong with the original design?
The layout was just not, I just kind of put all the words down without designing the flow of idea of or the flow of the words. So, right now there are lines that break up the meat of the newsletter and the headline of the newsletter. So just little things like that and making it easier to read, which I'm so glad that he was honest about that because I think it makes a huge difference.
Are there moments in the last little while that you remember of just that stand out in your mind as just the craziest thing that has happened to you as you started this movement?
It's been really cool to connect with other organizations. I think one of the challenges of any movement, whether it be the environmental and social justice movement or any movement, is lack of organizations amongst organizations. So getting emails from other organizations who say, hey, we'd love to collaborate, or maybe you could feature us in one of your daily newsletters, or we could host one of the days and one of the tasks, and it would relate to what our cause is doing. That's been really cool because that's something I think is so important and that goes overlooked. I mean, it's amazing that so many people are inspired to start their own organization within a movement, but it's so important to come together as one so that it's not all segmented and the movement can move as one.
This has been really fascinating. I've really enjoyed the chance to chat with you. In a nutshell, what is the email all about if you were to sort of kind of explain it in a very simple way?
Today We Will is a daily impact newsletter. Every day, it sends out one small task that, when done by all, can have a big positive impact. You will find that on our website at todaywewillnewsletter.com, and you'll find that across, any platform that we stand on. And one of my favorite parts of it is everyone's first email, whether you sign up today or tomorrow or a year from now, will be to thank an unsuspecting person. And we do that because the only way that we can feel like we're all working together is if we feel connected to each other. And appreciating each other does just that.
Well, Olivia Gossett Cooper, this has been fascinating. I've really enjoyed the chance to talk with you about your movement. And I think it's fascinating. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that will learn a lot from your experience and the short time that you've been working with this. But wonderful. Thank you so much. Really inspiring.
Thank you. And I really appreciate the time and interest in Today We Will.
Yeah, it's been great. Keep on trucking.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you for joining our Uprising today and listening to our show. If you missed the show, or if you want to find out more about who was on, or if you want to learn more about how to create your own Uprising, please go to uprisingmovements.com. You can also download this Uprising program from iTunes. Uprising was produced by Nicola Keneally and Adam Helen, with special help from Melanie Boardman, Karin Drachenberg, Philippa Freeman, Brianna Campbell, Fashad Faroudi, Mark Bruzy, Will Issam, James Politi, and Jonathan Weeks. My name is Scott Goodson, and you've been listening to Uprising. What we can learn about movements and uprisings that are shaping our world in business, in society, and in between. For more on cultural movements and movement marketing, be sure to pick up a copy of the best-selling book Uprising, How to Build a Brand and Change the World by Sparking Cultural Movements, available on Amazon.com. Music for Uprising composed by Charles Duchateau.